Oh dear. We are a mess today. I had nice hair at some point. Hi. Sorry, I am trying to figure out what on earth went wrong. I had such good hair at some point today, and then I did yoga, and I'm just really not sure where everything went wrong. How are you all? Hi, thank you for joining me. Tell me where are you all tuning in from? Hold on, I'm gonna get set up while you guys let me know. You missed Victor Vale. That's okay. There will be eventually a third book, and I'm working on something super secret and very exciting that hopefully I'll be able to tell you about soon. Hold on, allow me to get my whiskey. Northern California, Peru. Today will be Oban 14. Thank you. Oklahoma, Canada, New Jersey. Thank you so much. I decided to get this started a little early tonight because France. Wait, we're in France. Bonsoir. I'm in the Sarthe, so I'm in kind of about 2 hours south of Paris. Oh goodness, you guys are everywhere. It makes me so excited. I hope you all have a drink of choice. I know it's earlier in the day for some of you. Oh my God, I'm sorry to the one reading Conjuring of Light. I swear, the beginning is the hardest part in terms of how many people die, and then the middle is kind of nice again, and then more people die towards the end. I'm sorry, I have had a very long day, so this is how it's going tonight. Oh, hold on. Ah, we're waiting. Technology is going to work with us tonight. It's only 9 o'clock here. Hello.
Hello.
JT.
Hi, friend.
I was just pouring my whiskey.
Well, I have mine right here.
What have you got? What have you got? What are you drinking? Oh, I'm
Little Bag.
drinking Oban 14. That's brilliant.
See?
I love it.
Excellent taste.
Also, your backdrop looks beautiful, and mine is a staircase. Mine is under the stairs.
Well, I'm not as transient as you, so this is my little office, my little world.
Well, I have an office in Scotland, but I'm in France right now, and the only place I can get a signal, because my parents' house is 500-600 years old, is the house next door that they bought as like an Airbnb. So I'm next door, cool. And the only place I can kind of get good light at this time of day is under a staircase. So,
but it looks good. You've got great lighting.
Thank
look lovely.
You. I can't turn the camera around so you can see I've literally directed every light in this building kind of this way.
I love it. You've got your own studio. This is
it
great.
Is. It's a little JT, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Okay? I'm good. Yeah.
I miss your face. I'm so glad we get to do this.
I'm so excited that you invited me. It's been way too long. I think last time I saw you, we were also drinking scotch.
We were in Nashville. We were drinking scotch after the Southern Festival of Books.
Gosh, has it been that long?
Yeah. Because it was Southern Festival of Books, not this past fall, but the fall before.
No, we did yoga. There
it is. Okay.
I knew it. Was more.
I did yoga earlier today, and I was thinking of you because we did go to a yoga studio together. And then it downpoured, and I ended up sitting in my car for like half an hour. We're killing a little bit of time here at the very beginning so that people can join us because it's only like 9. It's right on the hour. We're both so punctual.
I know. I just wanted to.
I mean, JT froze. There you are. Okay. I got the spinny wheel for a moment, and I was like,
we have the worst internet.
Honestly, I'm only doing this so I have an excuse to hang out with you. You know, like this is what it takes, you guys, for writers to actually get together and hang out. It takes like a schedule, a pandemic, and a new Instagram live show.
It's terrible. We could live a mile apart and we would see each other in New York instead of in Nashville.
All the time. This is how
it's just how it is. We're all introverts.
I know. And it's like we end up I don't think a lot of people realize we end up seeing each other almost exclusively when we're on tours or at book festivals.
Yeah.
But we've known each other for several years now. Something else I feel like people don't realize.
No, probably not. It has been years. It
Years.
has been and the very first time we met, I remember you told me I needed to jump into fantasy.
I'm always just trying to woo everybody to my
I
side.
know.
What can I say?
I know. Come
What
to the
can I
dark
say?
side, you said. Come to the dark
I
side.
was like, I'm trying to woo everyone. I try to woo all my YA friends. I try to woo all my friends from other genres. I'm like, you can make shit up. Like, even more than usual if you come to fantasy.
Make shit up. That's the best part.
You can define the rules of your life. You can define, like, I think I say make shit up, and then I worry people are going to think that fantasy has fewer rules than other realms, but it does. They're just very well defined.
I think it's harder. I genuinely do. Creating an entire world from scratch.
I think it's harder to do well. Because you know what I mean? Because like there's an ostensible freedom that comes with fantasy where you think I can do anything. Like literally the world is my oyster. And then you realize that you can't kitchen sink it. You can't just like suddenly be like this and this and this and this plus dragons. Like there has to be, I can always joke that you're never going to find dragons in the Shades of Magic series. And it's not because like both are fantasy elements, but you have to create a house and then kind of find a way to stay inside the house while exploring new rooms inside that house.
Sure.
But you don't want to like change houses. Okay, wait. I'm getting so
we already started.
I'm getting so ahead of myself here. So everyone is saying hi. People are very excited
to
be here. And you're very lucky because I've just very recently figured out that I don't know what I'm doing here. And so luckily I have some very, very kind viewers, readers who will screen record this for us so that I can upload it to YouTube after the 24-hour marker because I don't. So basically it'll stay here on my page for 24, 23 hours after we finish. And then it'll go over and it will live forever over on YouTube. So we are being immortalized by my very, very weird YouTube account that I forget about for 2 years at a time. Yeah.
I'm glad because I watched the other one. It was fabulous. So.
You know what I like about them is that I think we do so many structured interviews as authors that you kind of, it doesn't become rote. Rote is the wrong word, but like, I think I want these to be part therapy session. And also as a creative, I'm just intensely interested in how other creative brains work.
Yeah.
Like I
totally get that.
When we get together, when writers get together at conferences, all I'm asking about is like, how do you plot? Like, how do you work through this thing? How do you deal with the self-doubt of it? And so what I really wanted this series to be is more a conversation about the nature of creativity and what it looks like, because the reason it's called No Right Way is because of how much I hate prescriptive writing advice. And the only way to really get beyond prescriptive writing advice is to understand that it truly is different for all of us.
Sure. There's so many ways up the mountain.
Yeah.
So many ways up the mountain.
So today we're going to explore your ways up the mountain. You're going to tell us everything you know. So to start, I'm going to ask you about your origin story. Because you have how many books? Do you know how many books you have, or is it to the point where you don't count anymore?
I'm writing my 25th.
25th. Okay. Mm-hmm. Whew. You got me beat, man. I'm at 18 and I just feel...
You've got an even more compressed period of time than I do. I mean, I've written 25 since 2007.
Okay.
So,
and I'm at 2009. You're still.
And you're 18. I mean, you're going to pass me here pretty quick.
I'm trying. I don't think I'm going to. The point is, you have quite a few bricks in your wall. You know? So how did you get to be the best-selling, internationally renowned J.T. Ellison? What was your path like?
It was a weird one because I quit writing for a really long time. I'm so jealous that you stuck with it when you were 19 and you didn't let yourself be shuffled off into another world. I had a professor who told me I wasn't good enough to get published, and so I quit writing. And I was getting my MFA. I was going to go do the whole thing. And she blew it for me, and I let her, which is terrible of me, but terrible of both of us. And so I quit for 8 years, and I didn't come back to it until after I moved to Nashville. And then there was nothing else for me to do. And everything felt wrong. Everything that I had ever done, I was good at it, but I hated it. Nothing,
Yeah.
you know, going to an office playing with, I don't play well with others, you know that. You know, so
Yeah.
I was destined for this kind of solitary, introspective life anyway.
Mhm.
And I had a series of bad things happen, and I found myself back in the page, and I felt like I was home. I typed that first paragraph and I hit the period and I started to cry because I was back. I was myself again
Yeah.
after this 8-year detour.
So 8 years is how long you strayed from the path.
I did not write. I mean, I maybe threw a poem in or
Yeah.
something, but I didn't write for 8 years. So I had a
That makes
lot
my
pent
heart
up.
sad.
I know, it's sad, isn't it? It's sad.
Yeah.
And no, I wasn't good enough to get published. Of course I wasn't. I was a baby, you know, but you don't tell somebody that. You tell them,
No,
keep going, keep working. I mean, she was like, no, and she wouldn't write me the recommendation for the MFA.
that
So
makes me so angry because I think it perpetuates this idea that you're either good at writing or you're not. And the only way to get better at anything is to be
right,
bad at it first.
right.
And it's about having a system, either a system of people who believe in you or enough spite in your heart to prove,
Exactly.
like I definitely had a lot of
To prove it
spite.
wrong.
I'm a
Right.
spite driven person, so I love it when people tell me that I can't do something because I'm like, oh, allow me to hold that in my heart and like keep it like a calcifer for the next 10 years. But that makes me so sad because yeah, I think one of the only reasons that I'm younger than a lot of my colleagues is simply because, not because along the way people were like, you can absolutely do this thing and you should, but when they doubted me, I was like, I'm going to show you. I can do what I want.
Just watch.
You
Watch
know?
this.
But
Yeah,
I think
it
that
was
makes me
stupid.
sad.
It was stupid, but I found it again, and that's the
important part.
happy ending. That's the
And then,
happily ever after,
my
right?
God, though. So 25 books. I'm leaning on my staircase now. Over
I wish I had a staircase.
how many years?
2006 to 2020. So 15 years,
Kind of.
16 years.
JT, I don't know if anyone's told you this, you're kind of killing it. You're kind of killing it. No, wait, but did you, because you're very, very successful. Were you successful out of the gate once you did come back to it?
I got really lucky really fast. I wrote what I thought was a novel. It wasn't, it was a novella, but I didn't know that because we didn't have, I mean, the internet wasn't its big, huge thing that it is now. There weren't the resources. I didn't know that there were awards for mystery. You know, I just was operating in a bubble. And I met some people who introduced me to the world and everything. And I ended up getting an agent, and that worked out really, really well. And he got me a 3-book deal on the first deal. And that's been it ever since. I've had 3-book deals every single time, except for where I've, deviated off on a couple other things. So I was so lucky. I got so lucky. So I figured I had such bad luck when I started that
I was going to say,
karma helped out a little bit.
It's kind of similarly to how some people are super fast drafters and then the revision process takes a long time, and some people are really slow drafters and the revision, like you pay for it in one column or another.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you pay for it in both columns. So it's not to say that luck isn't a factor, but it does make me happy that after wandering astray for those 8 years, that like you not only found your way back, but came back with such strength and fortitude as to be like, I'll show you. I'll become like one of the best known thriller writers. I'll become an absolute boss.
Yeah, that wasn't
an absolute boss.
No, that was not what I was thinking. I just wanted to tell stories. I was really geared up for crime fiction. I love exploring why people are bad to each other, because people can be really horrible to each other.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by that. And so, you take that, you lay it into a plot, and the next thing you know, you've got a couple of books. And they used to do 2 books a year for us. That used to be a thing. And then they slowed us all down to 1 book a year. So that's how I got that many that fast. Yeah, it's pacing. It's all pacing.
Are you, and I know different genres, authors tend to follow kind of different arcs in this. So are you a really highly structured writer, or do you like to explore your way through it? Are you a planner? What's it look like?
I am, I'm lucky if I can even tell the book, tell my editor what the book's going to be about.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think I want to write about a destination wedding where everything goes wrong. You know, I've realized that every pitch that I have ever made is X plus Y equals everything goes really wrong.
But that's what fiction is built on, is
Sure,
the
right?
idea of things of conflict, you know. So you're a forest writer, not a trees person.
I sit down, I let it go, I see where I'm going. Anytime I outline, I drown. I absolutely drown. The more thought I put into it, the less it works. It's crazy.
This is fascinating to me, though, because I would think, as I'm sure a lot of people would think, that writing crime or thrillers or things that have red herrings, that have those kinds of twists, that it requires almost like a chess mentality. So you're kind of exploring it as if one of the characters
is,
you know, you're learning.
Right. I'm learning as they move on. Circle. We have a spinning circle in my back.
No.
Okay. Okay. My internet's terrible. It's awful.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
We can hear you. It matters.
So I've done series and I've done standalones, and the process is a little bit different for standalones because you really do need to know what that arc is going to be.
Yeah.
But for the series, it's really easy. You have a set of characters, you've built the world, and you have to put the characters into situations. It's simple. It's a simple, straightforward kind of thing.
You make it sound very simple and straightforward, but as somebody who writes series and standalone, I do seem to struggle with both of them.
No, so I want to do whatever I'm not doing. If I'm writing a standalone, I want to be writing a series book. If I'm writing a series book, I want to be writing a standalone.
It's truly grass is greener, right?
Absolutely.
So what's your favorite part? Like I always say, I look forward to the brainstorming, and then the very last polish, and everything in between is a bit mired in stress for me. Do you have a favorite part of the creative process?
I like those last 4 or 5 days, that last week of a manuscript where you know that the end is coming and you're going to hit it one of these, you know, in the next few days. You know, are you going to hit it on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday? Either way. And when it looks like I'm going to hit it that day, I have a decrepit hole under the arm Harvard t-shirt that I put on, and that is finishing day, right? That's the day that I'm going to finish that book and I'm going to wear that shirt. And if I put that shirt on, it doesn't matter if I have to write 14,000 words, I'm going to finish that day. You know, it's just so much of this is psychological.
Here's why I love talking to you. You are like my kryptonite idea. Like everything that you love are my favorite parts of the entire process. Nothing stresses me out than those last days before a draft is done when I don't know quite how much stands between me and the end, and I want to pace myself because I know I don't want to have to write 10,000 words in a day. So I know that the end is near, but it's not quite near enough. Those are the days I don't sleep. I feel like lost in my own head, and I hate it. I'm such a control freak that those are the days that I dread, when the end is near and I don't want to rush it because I'm afraid I'm going to, anyway, this is great.
You're afraid you're going to screw it up.
Yeah, I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to mess it up. And
are your drafts finished when you're finished, or do you, I mean, I know you do some revision, but you're pretty well done when you're done, right?
Well, here's the great lie of what I do. I revise meticulously while I'm drafting. So the thing that my first draft is like a third or a fourth draft.
Okay, yeah.
And then I still somehow have to rewrite the whole thing from scratch. So it's an illusion. It's an illusion.
It's all an illusion. Well,
like
every book's different.
I mean, I'm not sure I always have to rewrite everything from scratch, but I want it to be just, I don't know, it's part of my creative process to like have to do this for some reason, but knowing I'm going to rewrite it all from scratch doesn't seem to spare me from wanting it to be perfect every word that I put down on the page.
And you work like 4 hours at a time, right? That's your creative
in a day. Like maybe 2 to 3. Like I do like 30-minute sprints, somewhere between 2 and 3 hours worth in a day. Okay. And like my ability to create plummets after the 2.5 hour mark. Like plummets through the floor. Like,
See, and
just
I'm
through
the
the floor.
opposite. It's the
Are you
first
like a
2.5
9-hour?
hours suck. And I can't, I mean, it's just kind of banging, you know, banging on the rock and banging on the rock.
Yeah.
And then something gives and everything starts to flow. And it's the third and fourth and fifth hour where I actually can work. So I think I'm just distracted in the beginning. You're probably much more focused when you
Well,
sit
you know what
down.
it is? I think about the scene that I'm working on all day up until the moment I sit down to write. So by the time I sit down and start my 2-hour clock, I've already built the scene in my head and it becomes execution.
Okay. That makes
Does that make
sense.
sense? But this is why I love this series, because literally, like, we could not be more different.
No.
Like, what is your least favorite part of the process?
Where I am right now, when a book is not working and it won't conform and it won't fall into place, and I've been working on it forever, and something is wrong with it and I can't put my finger on it, and it's like I want to quit. It's that moment. It's that moment where I just want to walk away. Screw it. I've blown it. I need to start over with something brand new. You know, I can, if I never write again, I've got a body of work. You know, it's that total all is lost moment.
It's a disheartened moment. It's the moment where you're just
awful.
like, if you look through my Twitter, roughly once every 6 months, I tweet some version of, fuck this shit, I'm going to move to Iceland and raise goats. Because, like,
yes,
it just seems like it would be more satisfying. Like,
yes.
my most satisfying thing in my life when I'm not living here in France with my parents is I would come down to France a couple times a year when my dad got his wood delivered. Because we have like a fireplace and wood has to get delivered. And my favorite thing to do would spend 5 to 6 hours chopping and stacking wood. And when it was over, all of the wood that was on the ground would be stacked perfectly and my whole body and soul would be tired. And I would sleep the best sleep I had ever slept. That is what I live for. So I'm clearly on the wrong profession because writing is the exact opposite of that.
It really is. It's ephemeral. You're going at it. You're doing what you can. You pray that day is going to give you what you need from the muse to make the story come together. And, you know, I'm not good at the story isn't working. I'm going to get up and walk away and go do something. I will sit there for hours and scream at it and rewrite that one, you know, maybe if I cut and paste and move, you know, and that's not productive. I don't think those are the productive days.
We know the power of walking away. We know the power of a shower. We know the power of taking away your tools, right? Take away your pen and paper, take away your computer. We know these things. And yet we torment ourselves by simply thinking if we bang our head against the wall hard enough for long enough, it'll fix itself.
Well, it feels like a reward. It's like a reward. If you walk away, it's like, I'm going to go watch a movie.
You didn't earn that?
I didn't earn it.
Yeah.
I didn't earn it.
Yeah.
That's terrible. That's not it. It's a very abusive, self-abusive kind of situation, really.
Here's the weird thing. It's abusive, and it's the one way in which writing has gotten harder for me. More books that I write, the better I get at seeing that something isn't working. But the fact of the matter is, whether you're on your first book or your 25th, you can't fix a blank page. You can't fix it until you put something down. That's right. I beat myself up because I think I should be able to by now. And instead, I can just see, oh, there's a stain on this shirt. I can't get the stain out yet, but I can see that there's a stain on this shirt and it's bothering me and I'm obsessing over the stain and I can't look at anything else but the stain. And like, I'm also really big on using as many metaphors as possible. So you'll notice that. So what I want to know, so when you're drafting, first of all, how many things are you working on at one time?
You know, usually one major project plus doing promotion for another book. You know, when I was doing 2 a year, I was always writing, editing, and promoting, right? Yeah. So it's slowed down a little bit, but it's the same thing. You're always out there promoting. And now obviously we're promoting 24/7, you know, that's all changed. That's different. Yeah. But the idea of, you know, I'm usually drafting a book is being edited or is in the hopper. I mean, the best case scenario is I'm editing a book that's done. I'm drafting a book that's coming up, and we're gearing up for the book that's coming out.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened that way in a while, but
Yeah.
that's best case scenario. And I like,
Well,
I do short stories sometimes on the side. Like I'll take a weekend off and write a short story just because I'll get a line in my head and I won't be able to leave it alone.
Yeah. I'm trying to use short stories right now to kind of fix this block that I've had ever since the pandemic has started, which is that I don't have the focus to hold a whole novel's worth of work in my head. But also, someone said, here comes Victoria's stovetop metaphor. I was about to bring up my stovetop metaphor, and I'll get to in a second. I can't hold a whole novel in my head right now because there's just so much distraction in the world. But I find that, or at least I'm hoping that short stories will provide almost a microcosm of productivity, because it's something, maybe a novel takes 6 months to write, but a short story takes 6 days, and you feel a sense of satisfaction. I love that you're like, I'll write this in a weekend. And for me, my agent has begged that I stop writing short stories because they take me longer than novels most of the time. I get like so lost in them. I wrote one called Death Knell that took 5 months, and my agent was like, never again.
Never again. But are you only doing that? I mean, that's
no.
Okay.
I don't.
You work on a million things at once.
Here comes my stovetop metaphor.
Excellent.
I believe that the brain is like a 6-burner stove. And so I always have one burner on really high heat actively cooking. That's the project that I'm actively drafting. But the other 5 burners on the stove are all on very low heat with other projects. And they're kind of steeping and gaining flavor. And I'm continually adding ingredients to those other burners. But only one thing can be on active high heat, whether that's a draft that I'm working on or a big revision. Like when I was revising Addie, everything in the world stopped because I couldn't juggle. For me, it's not even I can juggle plot till the cows come home. I am working on the plot for a comic, the plot for a TV show, and the plot for a novel right now. Plot is not a problem. I can't juggle voice. I cannot. Okay. I can't, like, the voice is so important in something like Addie that I couldn't let any of the other voices kind of vie for place.
Hey, I got to interrupt you because you finished Addie.
I did.
It has a cover. It has a light. She has come to, I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
Because the last time we talked, you hadn't started it yet. It was like November and it was due in December and you were.
Don't call me out like that, man.
I'm exaggerating.
But I hadn't started drafting it.
You hadn't started drafting it, and now here we are, and you finished. So, Slanja, I'm very, very proud of you. That's
Sante,
huge.
Thank you. You're one of those friends that I have known long enough that, like, you have watched the cycle of Addie come to life.
No. You've talked about her for years.
It's very surreal. People were teasing on Twitter where they're like, what good did you have in your life that brought about the pandemic? And I was like, it's probably Addie. But no, thank you. It's been, almost a decade, and it's just this immense relief. And I have never been so happy, and I never drank so much. But no, this is not about me though. This is about you. So what I want to know is, you seem to, correct me if I'm wrong, you seem to have a life as well as writing. Like, it doesn't seem to take up every second of your day. How?
No, my husband and I, Randy, we actually had a tiny little tiff day before yesterday because he's working really hard and I'm working really hard, and neither one of us feels like we can stop working. So, it's like, you're a workaholic. No, you're a workaholic. Yeah. So, it's a thing.
But do you have things alone and together that you enjoy, or things that are your, it's very important, especially for someone who works so much, to keep that creative well and that spiritual well, emotional well full.
Sure. Well, with the pandemic, we haven't really been able to do any of that. Traveling is a huge one for me. So there's none of that.
Same.
Yeah. I mean, we had to cancel, several trips, obviously, just like everybody else.
Of course.
I can't go golf. I like to, I'm a golfer, so I can't go golf. I can't go to, see friends for queso dates and, those kinds of things. So what else am I going to do? I mean, it's not like I can do anything here. Yeah. I might as well work.
Yeah.
you know, and I might as well bang my head against the wall.
But that's the problem, right? There's a risk that comes with this pandemic in that, as you kind of hinted at it earlier, as authors who are used to traveling and promoting in person, we now feel even more pressure than ever to promote ourselves continually online. And people don't realize that promotion comes at the cost of productivity. When we're promoting, we're not writing. And so this sense of continuous accessibility is kind of an extra factor where we feel even guiltier than usual. Like, if we're awake, we must be working. If we're not actively writing, we must be promoting. Because God forbid people forget that we exist for 5 minutes amid everything.
It is, and it's not healthy in the best of times.
No.
And now we're in this very unique situation that I keep getting emails, you know, you could do this, or you could do this, you can do this. And it's like,
it's hard.
I think my job right now, and this is to any creative who is listening to this, I think this is a really important thing. I'm trying to tell everybody, our job right now is not to promote. Our job is to create, because there are so many creatives who can't, who are, you know, more touched by this than some of us, who, you know, are not going to be able to create a book this year. For those of us who have the privilege of our creativity is still working, we're in a safe environment, we can still create. I think it's incumbent upon us to do that, because that's going to keep our world running. Our publishing world is going to fall apart if there aren't books to share with the readers. So,
well, and stories are more important than ever. I mean, and I think there's this feeling now, this kind of constant low hum anxiety that art is perhaps feels less important, but it's even more important, you know?
I think,
and as I wind down and ask you a couple last questions, because people have been asking, you can ask questions in the comments, and if I see them, I will try and make room for a couple. If I feel like we've covered them, then I will not ask them, because this is my show, and I make up the rules as I go. So I'm
getting red from the scotch.
The cruel, I know, right? This is my second glass. So
oh, bravo.
It is 9:30 here, you know?
Yeah.
I have a question I consider to be the hardest question. And I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but I'm going to ask it because it's my favorite thing to ask. So I was at a conference. If anyone listened to my others, you'll understand I said this. Okay, character premise. I'm making notes on the questions I'm going to ask you that people have asked because they go by.
So fast.
If you could only choose one book to outlive you of yours that you've written, what would it be?
Lie to Me.
Really?
Yeah.
And why?
Yeah, that's the book. I'm not changing the world here, right? I'm writing to entertain people.
Yeah.
And to me, that's my most entertaining book. I love its setting. I love its premise. I love the characters. I love the problems that they have. It feels very personal and very relatable. They're writers. I think it gives a little insight into us as writers. I love that book. And it was the book that I felt the most creatively satisfied when I finished it. And, you know, that's the one that I think, you know, anytime anyone says, what book of yours should I read? There's 25 of them. You got to pick one, right?
Yeah.
Lie to Me. You know, Lie to Me is a great book. I think it's a really fun, crazy book.
Well, anyone who's watching this now or watches it later, I feel like they now have their assignment, because it can be daunting. I know I get asked this a lot online. Where should I start? Where should I start?
You have to answer. And
it's like I get asked the question of where to start. And I feel like it's really dependent on personality when you have a large catalog. But I love it when there's an answer. I'm hoping for me that answer personally is Addie.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you don't ever get to pick the book that outlives you. It was just like this question came to me because I was talking to an actor who is doing amazing work on The Expanse now. But when he was a teenager, he was one of the stars of Sky High, this Disney movie. And he goes to conventions for The Expanse, and people still remember him for Sky High. And we were talking in one of the green rooms about how you don't get to pick. You don't get to pick what it is that you're remembered for. And I've been thinking about it with books because, you know, if you had given me Vicious and A Darker Shade of Imagine, asked me which one was going to be more successful, I would have picked Vicious. Like, it It would have been a non-question in my head. And yet in most countries, Shades of Magic is the more, and so it's just gotten me thinking. But personally, I hope, if only one of my books ever has a chance to outlive me, I hope that it's Addie, because it's the first time in my whole career I finished writing a book and I thought to myself, okay, if I never do it again, I'm okay. Like if I never write another book, I'm okay.
Right.
Not financially. That's not financially. Like, dear God, please, people, go buy my books. But like psychologically. Okay, wait. So we have a couple questions I want to get through before we run out of time. Do you have advice for anyone on finding voice?
Voice is the hardest thing. It's the one thing you can't teach, right? Yeah. I can teach you how to write a story. I can teach you how to do all the stuff. Voice, what you have to do is internalize. You have to hear what your thoughts are saying and write them down. Mm-hmm. Somewhere between your brain and the page, it loses its magic. No matter what. It doesn't matter. Anything in your head does not translate as well onto the page. It just never does. But you have to trust that and nurture it and try again until you feel like you've got something that truly does speak to who you are as an artist. Because there are only 7 plots. There's 7 plots, you know, there's 7 situations we can put our characters in. Yeah. It's all about the voice. It's the most important thing.
That is a fabulous answer. It is a question I avoid answering whenever I can because it's so hard.
It's hard. It's really hard.
I've taught workshops on craft and openings and plotting, but voice is a thing you find almost by deduction as you become a better writer and you realize what you love reading and what you want to be, and then you hone it. And it's a hard thing. And sometimes I don't know it right away. I don't know. Apparently, readers have said that they can tell when they're reading one of my books because I have a particular voice. And the only thing I can think for that is that when I write, I always write for a specific version of myself. So I'm always writing to an age of me. Right. And that apparently seems to create a common thread. But the voice is the one thing I can't teach. I can tell when it's wrong. I can help make it better when I see how it's wrong. But at the end of the day, it's one of those mysterious ingredients.
Yeah, it's the thing. That's what makes us who we are as artists, as writers, as creatives. It is as unique to us as a fingerprint.
Which I know can sound like a very disheartening answer. That's why your answer is better. But I also think that people need to remember that one of the ways that you find your voice is by writing as much as possible. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You find it, and it's like one of those things that you like. I was sharpening my parents' knives today. Like that's how you find your voice. It's literally one stroke at a time of making the edge finer and finer. You start with a dull instrument and you learn to sharpen it. And it's a muscle. People that you love and you start to think why it works. But really it's the thing that practice only makes you better at.
Yes, absolutely. The more you do it, the easier it is.
You have co-written a few things. Mm-hmm. How has that experience been for you?
It ruins your voice. Genuinely, truly. It's really fun. And having 2 brains on a story is wonderful, right? But no matter what, you have.
Mm-hmm. No, I've still got you. Don't worry.
There we go. The braid of your voices, and it becomes a 3rd voice. And then if you have to go back and create it again, that's really hard. And then to sustain it is even harder. And then you go back to your own work and it's like, who am I? And you have to start all over.
I mean,
it's hard. Exercise. It's fun, but it's hard.
I was going to say, it's a good creative exercise.
It is. It absolutely is.
But I marvel at it. I take time away from my own books and I have a hard time coming back to the world. I'm writing a short story in the Shades of Magic world right now. And I had like a solid 20 minutes today where I was like, have I forgotten how, like, what my voice is? Like, I like had a moment where I was like, I don't know what I write like anymore. Because I think this is the weirdest part, right? Books, when they're finished, become static entities. But authors continue to change. So we evolve past the voice that we had in any given book.
Sure.
Which
absolutely. And that's perfect
crazy. It drives me
Well,
absolutely crazy though.
but that is the thing, that you have to trust yourself. And that's, it's very hard to trust yourself, but that is what you have to do. You have to, if I recall a bacon date when you told me this, to just trust myself and to try changing. It was the tense of the book, and I'd never done a present tense, and it worked, and it was amazing.
See? Listen to me.
I know. It's like, I mean, you're the first person I want to call anytime something's going wrong, because it's, you have such altitude on these things. But,
I think that's why we have friends.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have to have creative friends to do this with. But it's, it's very hard. It's very hard to, maintain a specific voice. And that's why doing different kinds of work, I think, is really important. Not writing the same book over and over and over again.
Yeah. And that's hard. And I think you have to embrace that. You have to embrace that you as a creative are going to continue to change.
Absolutely.
And I just feel, I feel like you have to embrace that we are fluid and ever evolving and ever informed by the time and our art and what we're listening to and what we're reading. And and Julia, who's an amazing audiobook narrator and also author, Julia Whelan, who I just got to announce today. She's narrating Addie. I know. But it really is.
Anytime Julia wants to do one of my books, I'm perfectly content.
But it is a kind of acting. You're embodying, you're taking on a character, and then you are creating within, as if you're possessing that character for as long as possible. Not just in first person, but in third close and in second.
All of it.
And one of the recommendations I give to people when they are struggling with an element, either plot, character, or voice, is to switch it up. Change the tense, change the narration, change the perspective. One of the things, and I mentioned this in my last interview, is I was really stuck on the opening of something. I couldn't figure out the first 50 pages, and I wrote it as a TV pilot instead. And it was liberating, because when you're writing fiction, every word of description and every voicey moment is so precise. But when you're writing a pilot outline, you're really just trying to get your beats and get your dialogue and get all of your ingredients, And so I feel like as a perfectionist, taking away the pressure of the perfect, reminding myself that it's just a living document,
I did the same thing with Girls Lie.
Yeah. Did you
wrote
switch
that
it?
Beginning as a screenplay, because I couldn't quite nail it, and so I wrote it as a screenplay, and boom, there it was. Boom.
It's about dislodging the expectations that we put on ourselves. It's about dislodging the assumption. Like, feel like sometimes I'm known for the cadence of my prose, but that means when I sit down to write a new chapter, I sometimes feel a little paralyzed by the pressure of coming up with beautiful prose. And then I'm like stalling out on the story, trying to find the perfect sentence, when, as we've established at the beginning of this talk, I'm going to rewrite the whole damn book anyway. So
why beat your head against the wall? Just do it.
So the question I want to end with is one I haven't been able to answer before, so I'm excited to make you answer it instead. As you're building your story, as you start off, what do you know about your characters? Do you build profiles for them? How do you understand them?
I hear them. They talk to me. They talk to me. They talk to each other, and I get that sense for them through that. Their names are really important to me. That without a name, it's usually the first thing I come up with was the name of the character and then the name of the book, because those thematically dictate everything that happens. And that's, so names are really important. If they're being recalcitrant, I will interview them.
Okay.
Because the most important thing to know about your character, about every character that you write, is what their biggest shame is.
Yes.
What is the thing that they would kill to hide? That they would literally strangle you to keep. Yes.
Okay, so you've got your crux there is their shame.
Their biggest
shame. For
me,
the thing I have to know about my characters is, I call it's a tripod, but I need to know what they're afraid of, what they want, and what they're willing to do to get it.
Yeah.
And if I understand that little tripod of them, I can build the whole character.
That's perfect.
Oh,
It's perfect.
This,
Those are, I mean,
yeah.
that's how you create a real depth of a character. It's like getting to know somebody that you've met at a, you know, you've met them at a conference. You're like, huh, this is a really interesting person. You start texting, you know, you just hang out a little bit.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you start confiding in one another.
Yeah.
And that's where the character needs to come from, is that moment of confiding in you.
Yes.
And that's, you'll
Sarah
get there.
Griffin just phrased it as fear, want, and willing as a golden triangle. And
Golden
I love
triangle.
that.
Yep.
I think that's perfect. And I think that's an amazing place
Sarah,
for us to end.
I loved her interview last week. It was really awesome.
Thank you. Sarah, it makes it very easy to be the interviewer because she's such a brilliant interviewee, as are you. You are one of my favorite people in the entire world. I love how different we are creatively. I think that is the whole point of the series. I think you're just amazing.
Ditto, my dear. I love that you're doing this. I think it's going to be amazing for everybody, for readers and for authors to follow along and see, you know, you have a very new, different, fresh mind that you've put to fiction. And I think we can all learn from you.
Oh, thank you. Well, if nothing else, I like to drink and ask smarter people than me questions. So
cheers.
That's what I'm here for. You have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in today and just making this a delightful afternoon, evening, morning, middle of the night.
Yay.
Yeah.
Take care, y'all. Be
Bye,
safe.
guys.
Be well.